Off the ice! Take flight! Sakura swirl! Kamisato art! Sumetsu!
Hello everyone, welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. My name's Arkrevner and I like to play games, and today we're going to be talking about Ayaka again, but this time we have her fully built. I have been working tirelessly since she launched in order to get her up to level 90, and yesterday it finally happened. So today we're going to be going over my current build for Ayaka, what other recommendations that I have if you do not have what I currently have, and I want to show you guys a quick damage showcase of Ayaka versus the Inazuma bosses and domains. As you could see from the very beginning of the video, Ayaka actually hits like a truck, but she is a bit tricky to play, and so I wanted to give some tips and tricks on how to utilize her to the best of her ability, show you both my best plays as well as some of the mistakes that I made and things that I need to work on in order to optimize her rotations. Essentially, Ayaka hits pretty hard no matter what, but she actually has a pretty high technical threshold in order to do her maximum amount of damage. I'll also briefly go over why I chose the teams that I did, because I wanted to amplify her damage as much as possible. If you do end up learning anything from this video or enjoy it, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below. It really helps me boost into the YouTube algorithm and help small creators like me grow our channels. Also, feel free to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more Genshin Impact content from me. Alright, and with all that out of the way, let's move into Ayaka's build. Alright, and as you can see, I'm sitting pretty at 2,324 attack. My elemental mastery is at 84. My crit rate is at 88%. My crit damage is at 210.4%. Energy recharge is unfortunately at 100%, which is why I will be using a cryo battery on my team. And my cryo bonus damage is 61.6%. Alright, and as for my weapon, I'm currently using the Primordial Jade cutter. I do think that the Mist Splitter is going to be the higher damage dealing weapon, but this is the one that I currently have built, and the crit rate is very, very nice. It allows me to be a little more flexible with my build, and it still hits like a truck. Speaking of flexibility, because my crit rate is so high from the Primordial Jade cutter, I'm currently using a 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Blizzard Strayer instead of a full 4-piece Blizzard Strayer set. This is because I found that I was over-critting by a fair margin when I was using the full Blizzard Strayer set, and I just wanted to have the extra attack because it was more valuable in the end. My Ayaka is going to be at C0 for the entire video, and all of her talents are currently leveled to 888. So this is the build that I will be using for the entire video. I do realize that some people aren't going to have a 5-star weapon, so I will give some 4-star options at the end of the video, so that you can have another option if you do not have one currently available. But for now, let's go ahead and move into the damage showcase. Alright, but before we show Ayaka in a team setting, let's go ahead and show her real quick on her own. You'll notice that she actually does miss a couple crits here and there because she does not have the cryo resonance giving her the additional 15%. However, you'll notice that she still does crit very often and still outputs a lot of damage all on her own. I think that this build is extremely strong, and it only becomes stronger when you have the right teammates to back her up. Okay, now let's go ahead and test out Ayaka in a full team setting, starting with the domains. I actually love doing testing inside of domains because it gives you such a wide array of different enemies and situations that you'll have to deal with, and it's probably the most similar thing that you have to testing inside of Spiral Abyss. It's just way less pressure, and it's a good way to farm while doing damage tests. One thing that I almost immediately noticed about Ayaka is that she's decent at dealing with groups of enemies, but she has a much easier time if you have an Anemo support unit in order to group them all up so that she can hit them all at the same time. This is why you'll notice that I actually bring Kazuha to a lot of my battles, because not only is he able to group enemies, but he's also able to boost her elemental damage because of his elemental mastery buffs. Another important thing that I noticed about Ayaka is that she really does suffer like characters like Beidou and Xiangling because she has an 80 cost burst. This is really annoying because, especially since my build doesn't have any energy recharge on it at all, I 100% needed to have another cryo member on the team so that I could have them act as a battery for Ayaka. It ended up working out okay because a lot of my other teammates had high energy recharge, but if you don't have this, you're going to really suffer with Ayaka using her burst, which is about 50% of her overall damage. One other thing that I really do recommend pairing with Ayaka is having a shield unit, because she has to get up close and personal in order to deal her maximum amount of damage. This is because she has to sprint into enemies in order to activate her talent buffs, and if you fail to do this, then you're actually missing out on a significant amount of damage. Speaking of which, you want to be dashing all the time. If you are not dashing, that means that you are not cryo-infusing your sword, and therefore you're going to be dealing physical damage and not cryo damage. And whenever you're dealing physical damage instead of cryo damage, you are missing out on a lot of damage per second. This was something that I definitely had to get used to because it's not something that you have to worry about with any other character. But honestly, with enough time, I was able to adjust to it and it didn't become too much of a problem. I just had to constantly remind myself to try to always dash before starting a combo. However, I purposefully left in my mistakes so that you guys could see the difference between when she hits with cryo and when she doesn't hit with cryo, when she does have more attack because she did dash before and when she doesn't. I think that this is important to see because it really does affect her damage numbers in the end. And now that we're onto the bosses, I really do have to say I think that this is where Ayaka really shines. It seems as though she's probably the best cryo single target DPS in the game. I think that she might actually outpace Ganyu, specifically in single target damage. I do think that she definitely falls behind in multi-target, but in single target she actually outputs a lot of damage very quickly. This is because her burst just ticks so many times, has huge damage multipliers, and in conjunction with using her skill and just her regular auto attacks, she can just tear through an enemy within a matter of seconds. However, like I mentioned earlier, in the heat of battle, there was a lot of times where I found myself messing up my rotations, forgetting to dash, forgetting to use my elemental skill before attacking. I know that this won't be an issue for more skilled players, but I have to mention this because I feel as though Ayaka, like I said, deals a lot of damage, but in order to reach her maximum potential, you really need to have her rotations down pat. So I personally recommend just practicing over and over again to make sure that you have your rotations as smooth as possible to make sure that she's outputting as much damage as possible. I honestly think it's just going to come down to muscle memory and just having the team have proper synergies in order to make sure that you're getting into the right flow during each battle. Another huge key to Ayaka's success is her team compositions. I really do think that her best compositions are freeze teams, anything that can immobilize the enemies, anything that can raise her crit rate through Blizzard Strayer or through Cryo Resonance. Like I said, I think that a shield unit is not necessarily essential, but very useful since she has to get up close and personal. And having an Anemo character to apply a Cryo Shred using the 4-piece Viridescent, as well as provide crowd control, is just really nice. And I do think that her best ones for those are probably going to be Kazuha and Venti. I've made team building guides in the past, and if you guys are interested, please let me know because I can probably put a video together with her best teammates. I just want to know what you guys want so that I can plan accordingly. But before we end the video, I did say that I was going to give some other options in terms of builds as well as 4-star weapons in case you don't have a 5-star weapon. So let's go ahead and do that. I do have to stand by the Blizzard Strayer set. I do think that that is her best in slot set. Or if you have enough crit rate, the 2-piece Blizzard Strayer 2-piece Gladiator is very good on her. I do also think that the new artifact set, the Emblem of Severed Fate, is probably going to be very good on her. However, this suits her a lot more if you're using her as a quick swap sub DPS rather than a main DPS because you're going to be losing a lot of damage on her autos as well as her skill. These are probably the only 3 sets that I would probably recommend for her because the other new artifact set will take away from her burst uptime, which is not great, and I feel as though all the other ones just don't synergize well with Ayaka, or at least aren't as optimal as the sets that I previously mentioned. Also, to quickly go over her 4-star options in terms of weapons, you really can't go wrong with the Battle Pass weapon. I do think that the Battle Pass sword is very good on her. However, if you are not a light spender, I actually think that the Black Cliff sword is actually probably her best in slot 4-star weapon because of the crit damage substat. Because of the Blizzard Strayer, you can get away with not having a lot of crit rate, and your damage is just going to be much higher because of the crit damage substat. If you have neither of these, I do think that the new 4-star craftable weapon is probably going to be her best craftable weapon by far, just because it does give her extra attack as well as gives her better uptime on her burst. The Royal Sword as well as the Flute are also solid options, but definitely not as good as the previously mentioned. The Harbinger of Dawn is probably the only 3-star weapon that I would recommend. However, it will get outscaled by the other weapons because it has such a low base stat. Any other weapon I would honestly just use as a placeholder. She doesn't do very well with the support weapons because of their low base stats, and honestly Ayaka is really built to be a main damage dealer. Alright guys, I think that's all for now. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, I hope that you guys learned a few things. If you did, please feel free to leave me a like and comment, I would really appreciate it. And feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content from me in the future. I also have an Ayaka prep guide if you need to get her materials together, make sure to check that out if you're struggling. And I hope from the bottom of my heart that you're enjoying Inazuma as much as I am. Alright, that's all for now. Best wishes. Bye.